Let me be your leader.
It's widely accepted by both foreigners and Chinese people that you could move to China without learning Mandarin. And in fact, that's reasonable to do because learning Mandarin is so hard, which is a funny attitude to take. I mean, the French certainly don't think that. Americans don't think that about English. So I've always liked learning languages. And there's a community online of polyglots that seem like it would be a natural fit, but actually I hate those guys. I feel like they treat language learning like memorizing baseball card scores. And I feel like they miss a big part of what language is for, which is it's connected to the culture or cultures that it's representing. And I feel like you miss out on that if you're just like trying to catch them all. I learned some Chinese words for my kids too. For example, fart and stinky, and the word for tractor they taught me. When I was like 3 years old, my dad had a Chinese coworker who was maybe also our neighbor. Anyway, I spent enough time with him and his wife to pick up some Chinese from them, which my parents didn't know. So we were out somewhere else and I found another Chinese person and I was saying words to them, and my mom was horrified thinking I was just making like ching-chongy noises, and she's like, "That's not right!" And the person was like, "No, she's speaking Chinese," which was pretty awesome. And it went both ways. I taught them some English as a 3-year-old, and so my dad had to help out his coworker who used the word yucky in an engineering document, and you know, some words are for kids. I was lucky enough to be born in an English-speaking country, so, you know, it's easiest to learn languages as a baby, so I did, because English is hard to learn, and other languages are hard to learn. But I don't actually have to learn another language because I already know English. And in fact, it makes my lifestyle possible. I walk down the street here in Luzhou and people ask me if I will teach their kids English. Which is, I am a good teacher. That happens to be true. But it is just also, I happen to be born English speaking. English is kind of the worldwide language of entertainment. You could even be BTS, which is like the biggest band in the world. And they have American fans. But they never got radio play until they sang a song in English. And then, as Simon Barnes pointed out on one of our videos, a band that doesn't normally sing in English, singing in English can sometimes sound a little unfortunate. So their songs sounded very silly from what I hear. I myself am not a BTS fan. I don't find a problem with the fandom. But you don't have to speak English. The band Sigur Rós sometimes sings in a made-up language. And yeah, maybe not everybody knows who they are, but if you're in the right rooms and you bring up that band, people will come sit next to you. I saw an interesting thread on Twitter the other day about whether there are any Chinese textbooks that acknowledge the Chinese diaspora. And the answer was kind of no. But I thought it was interesting because it is like all the textbooks I've used are like, it feature a foreigner and a Chinese person, and the Chinese person is telling every traditional thing about Chinese culture, like how to drink tea and how Chinese medicine works, and like, would you like to go to the Shanxi Opera? Without acknowledging there are people who are learning Chinese who may have some familiarity with Chinese culture, and there are people who speak Chinese who do not live in China. Because it is like, well, I have had to use arranging transportation to see the pandas, has in fact come up, but I don't really need to discuss the finer points of distinction between Beijing Opera and Shanxi Opera. And it sometimes feels like a parody of living in China, these textbooks. Although you can't actually divorce culture from language. I had an exercise I did in which it was make a sentence out of these words, and the sentence I made was, the old people wish the children Happy New Year's. And my teacher told me that grammatically that was correct, but actually, in actuality, the young people wish the old people Chinese New Year's, Happy Chinese New Year's, not the other way around, because that's how respect flows from the younger to the elder. So while what I said was grammatically correct, she was still like, but it's strange, so I'm marking this wrong, which is helpful to know. We recently in my class talked about the existence of the 4 great Chinese novels. We didn't actually study them because I'm not that good yet. And my teacher said, like, you know, these are kind of foundational in that, like, all culture after those novels were written refers back to these novels, much in the way that Shakespeare is kind of foundational in English. It's not that, like, you don't understand the words, but it comes up as a reference so often that you have a richer understanding if you know that background. Which reminds me, a few years ago when the show 𝗖𝗵𝚅 was still on the air, I kind of thought that would make a good graduate English culture project because they just like throw out so many references. Like if you have to research and be familiar with every joke, pop culture, and deep culture reference that they're making, then you understand American culture. French rap is pretty ridiculous. On a family trip to France when I was a teen, we heard some rap song that was just like, quoi, je ne sais pas, which just means what, I don't know. And it's pretty ridiculous. If it's in French, I want Serge Gainsbourg or nothing. I kind of felt the same way about Chinese rap when we first moved here, but that's actually gotten kind of complex and really good since then. I don't know why I'm slamming on the French today.